Real lovers, what is going on? Let's talk about the easiest way to pray consistently as a single Christian woman. We're going to dive into it. But first, let's talk about why so many women tend to struggle praying consistently, right? So I did a survey not too long ago in the Real Love community, and one of the main challenges that kept coming up, I saw it over and over and over again, is like prayer time, not able to pray consistently, my prayer life. And I wanted to do a video and talk about it. So let's address this, right? Like, I want to help you today to get to a place as a woman where you can get that prayer together, that prayer life consistent, get it on point, right? So let's talk about why you may be struggling to pray consistently, right? And I can relate more than anybody. I promise you I can. I'm going to talk about some of my struggles. Like, prayer was probably one of the most challenging areas for me personally to develop spiritually in. Like, real talk. When I was going through my spiritual journey real heavy, this was the area that I had to put extra attention on because it was a huge challenge, right? So before I get into me, let's talk about you ladies, right? So you may be struggling to pray consistently because you find it hard to find time to do so. Sometimes it's just difficult. Like, you got work, you got school, you got family, you got other responsibilities, other priorities and things that are taking your time. And it's hard to find the time or carve out the time or make the time to pray. And it's not a habit that you've been able to develop over the years. So you may be able to pray, but you're doing it inconsistent. And that really starts to kind of bother you from a spiritual place, especially because you care about your relationship with God. You want to stay strong and connected with him. But like, you see that inconsistency, and sometimes it can make you start to judge yourself, judge your relationship. And I just want to say, like, don't judge yourself, right? Like, we've all dealt with this. And, just show yourself what they would say, some grace, love yourself and understand that this is just the area that you'll just need to improve a little bit in. And you definitely can. I'm going to help you to do that today. So without further ado, let's talk about the fact that, sometimes the challenge is you don't necessarily know what to pray for. And this is definitely one of my challenges. Is time wasn't really necessarily the issue for me. For me, I really struggle personally with, like, I don't really know what to say. It's like, I know what I want to pray for, who I want to pray for, but like, those specific words just weren't coming for me. Like, I just struggle. Like, I wasn't one of them people that I call a freestyle prayer. Like, yo, Jay, can you pray? Like, yeah, man, I got us. Bah, 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 bah. Just start flowing like I'm at a freestyle or a rap battle. Like, I just can't do it, man. That just wasn't, that wasn't a skill that I developed. Let me put it like that. I'm not going to say I can't do it. It's just a skill that I never developed, right? And with that in mind, it's so important to recognize the fact that, where you struggle, because then you can work on it. So for me, I recognized that my challenge was, I don't know what to pray for. That's when I started looking into prayer books, and I started figuring out, well, cool, man, I'll start praying prayers that other people have written, powerful prayers that are going to make a difference. And to me, words are powerful. You speak them out, even if they weren't my words, they didn't, come from my mind. Praying those words helped me. Like, I can tell you right now, I probably got a stack of prayer books that address prayers in all different areas of life, from spiritual warfare to praying for my future wife, and, praying about, finances and increasing my faith and my relationship with God. You name it. I got a prayer book that does it, because when I need to pray for something specifically and the words aren't coming there for me, I can go to one of those books, one of those resources, and I can get the prayer out there into the atmosphere, up into the heavenlies, right? I can get it before God, right there in the courts in the kingdom of heaven. Yes, ma'am. And the other challenge that I would say, I think the third one is, it's just not a habit. It's something that's inconsistent, like I mentioned before, and you just haven't locked it in as a habit. And that's the main reason why it's not consistent. It's not that you don't pray, you probably pray, but it's real sporadic, and, there's no structure to it. So how do you actually start praying consistently? Let's talk about it. So I think that if it's like a major challenge for you and it's not just a time thing, then you're going to want to study it. Understand prayer. Like if you don't understand something, it's very hard to connect with it. So for me, one of the first things that I started doing along my journey is I started going and getting books that helped me on prayer, right? One of them was by Dr. Miles Monroe. You know, he has a book called Understanding the Purpose and Power of Prayer. Then there's another book. I can't remember the title, but I do remember the author's name, Mike Bickle. His ministry is actually a 24/7 prayer ministry. Like you can go to their website any time of the day and there's somebody praying. It's live stream at 24/7. Like, and this book really helped me to, you know, understand prayer. There have been other books that I've read as well on prayer, but I would say those are the two that really stood out when it came to just better understanding what prayer is, how it works, how to, you know, get the results that I want through prayer, right? So then something else that I learned to help me pray consistently, I learned this through one of my spiritual mentors. And you have to start to collect evidence that the prayer works, because if you don't see that prayer actually works, it's going to be very challenging for most people to stick with it. But like when you getting results, when you're pursuing something, it will just make you, you put that fire in you. You want to keep doing it. And prayer is the same way. So what I started to do was I started to actually record and write down my prayer. Like, okay, I'm praying for this person. I'm praying for this. I write down when I pray for it and I keep praying for it. And I come back and I start to make a second list of answered prayers. And that started to show me that, yo, man, prayer actually works. Like I prayed for this person and this thing happened. I prayed for myself, this situation, and it actually happened. And when I started to see those results, like, yo, it just made me be like, oh, okay, this prayer thing works. Like now I can lock in and, you know, start really getting not just that relationship popping with God, but also starting to bring into reality some of the things that I want to see manifested here in my life and in the life of my family and friends and my loved ones, right? So another way that you can start praying consistently is join a prayer group or a prayer call. So you got prayer groups that will meet like once a week, and that will help you to get to a place where now you're meeting up, y'all praying together. Or you got some people that do prayer calls. Like I know that there are, you know, different ministries that do this. I've seen them out there. They got daily prayer calls early in the morning, 5, 6, you know, maybe that's not your thing getting up that early. You can have some prayer calls that work at a time that works for you. That's another way that, yo, you make it the time to go in there and join that call, join that group, and you start to consistently pray. And I think another thing, like I mentioned in a previous video, when it comes to having a goal in relationships, you need to set goals when it comes to your spiritual as well. And if you have a goal, there's something else that you need, and that's a plan. If you ain't got a goal, if you say you got a goal, but you ain't got a plan, you ain't got a goal. You got a wish. You hear me? You got to wish. So in order for it to become a goal, you need to create a plan. So if your goal in this instance is to pray consistently, right? That's what you want to do. Then you have to create a prayer plan of how you're going to do it. That means determining how many times a day are you going to pray? You know, who are you going to pray with? Is it going to be by yourself? Is it going to be, you know, like, with a group on a call? Where are you going to pray? Like, are you going to pray, you know, in your home, in the car, while you're on your way, traveling, doing, like, you make a plan of how you're going to do it, and then you can execute the plan, and eventually you'll get the results that you need. And ultimately, how you pray consistently, you got to just show up. And if you're unable to show up based on just the fact that, yo, I'm locked in and I'm in prayer mode, then schedule it. You may need to actually put it on the calendar and say, at this time, I'm going to stop what I'm doing and I'm going to pray. And this is where having a prayer group or a call happens, especially because now you are being held accountable to show up to those groups, show up to those calls, and you got to get that on the calendar. So now you got that designated time locked in. But let's talk about what I truly believe is one of the easiest ways to start praying consistently. Let's keep it 100. It's praying for something you want. Like when I really started to get that momentum building up in my prayer life, it was because I was specifically praying for things that I wanted. And that may sound selfish to some people, but let's be clear. If you pray for what you want, it's just Like you want it. Like there's nothing wrong with praying for what you want. And when you start to see it manifest, oh my goodness, then you're going to be like, oh man, like, yo, this actually works. Now, I want to be clear. Faith without works is dead. So like there are things that you may be praying for, but also you need to be putting in some work and some action with it, right? So let's be clear. I'm not here to advocate for just putting something on a prayer list and you praying for it and you praying for it and you praying for it, but you ain't got no plan, right? Sometimes the thing you praying for is that your goal will be manifested. And if your goal is what you praying to be manifested, then sis, that means you got to have a plan and you got to be taking action on that plan as frequently as necessary. So praying for something you want. And this is a relationship ministry and brand and the community over here. So I'm sure one of the main things that you are wanting is your future husband. And let's be clear. I told y'all before, one of the things that helped me out major was having a prayer book that I could go to that made what I'm going to pray about, how I'm going to pray easy. And if you are unclear on what to say, if that's your challenge, then having a prayer book will come in handy. So if you want to pray for your future husband, you want a future husband, but you're not praying for him, which I see quite often. I've talked to so many of my sisters in the community and they all want to get married, but very few of them are saying like, yeah, Jay, I'm actually committed to praying for him on a frequent basis. It's not that they don't want it, but it's just not coming up in prayer as frequently as it should. And one of the ways to just totally remove that friction and make it happen is get a prayer book. And as you may know, I do have a prayer book, right? I have a prayer book that I co-wrote with my mom. It's very close to our heart. You know, we saw this need in the community of women of faith and we wanted to work together to fulfill that. So if you have an interest in wanting to use a prayer book for your praying for your future husband, I highly recommend, you know, our book, Manifest Him, Powerful Prayers for Your Future Husband. And if you aren't ready to make that initial investment, it's a $15 book, right? You know, it's not going to break the bank. Then I do have a free offer as well, which is allowing you to kind of start building that habit, which is 7 free prayers. So you can get that week going. And I mean, honestly, yo, if you real frugal with it, you could grab the 7-day prayer book that's free and just start praying those same prayers over and over and over again. Now, clearly the full book is going to give you a wider scope of things to pray. There's over 31 prayers. So every single day of the month, you're covered, right? But it's ultimately up to you. Whether you grab my book, a different prayer book, it doesn't matter. Do what is going to help you when it comes to praying consistently and praying for what you want. If you desire your future husband, write your own prayers, record your own prayers. That's another thing where sometimes if time is of an issue, you can consistently pray by praying your prayers at night. You know, record yourself praying and then play it at night. Play it while you're in the shower, whatever, while you're in the car. So that's a way that you can also get those prayers up there out in the atmosphere, even though you may not be actively involved in that in the moment. Now, that is not something you want to always rely on, but it's definitely a solid option to make sure that your prayers are being sent up to the Father on a consistent basis. So before we go, let's just talk about some of the benefits when you are able to pray consistently, right? It will definitely deepen your relationship with God. It will strengthen your faith. And like I mentioned before, it will ignite you when you start to see your prayers get answered, especially if you tracking them. I highly recommend writing down and tracking your prayers, because when you start seeing that they getting answered, man, you're going to be able to look back like, dang, like, yo, God showed up, man. He answered like 20 prayers this month. Like, yo, this is crazy. I remember those feelings, man. And I'll be honest, I'm gonna be clear. You know, I'm very transparent, right? I have kind of fell back on doing that. And it's something that, you know, just sitting here, you know, recording this for y'all, I definitely want to pick up and do that again, because I've seen it, right? You know, like I pray and I see God answer prayers all the time, but I want to get back to tracking. It's nothing like being able to like turn back and see it right there in print, like, yo, he did that thing. So that's something else, man. When God starts answering prayers, man, that will just ignite you to just want to keep going. So when it comes to making praying consistently as easy as possible, ladies, pray for your future husband. Pray for what you want. And when you start to do that daily, man, or whenever you start to just think about him, or he crossed your mind, or you worried or focused on your future husband, or you notice a quality that you want in him, yo, send that prayer up, sis. Send it up. But that's all we got. If you got any questions or anything like that, I'm always open. You can, send me an email or do what you do, how you do it. But thank you, ladies, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Until then, stay blessed, live, and love life. Thank God. Deuces.